Morning.
Morning.
You must waking up early, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Today I said let's talk about work-life balance, man. Really, because I don't have it.
Fair.
And I recently did a talk to a college. They're based out of North Carolina, but the students were from Chicago. Regardless, one of the questions, it was a restaurant owner. I'm gonna say he's probably in his 40s. He had asked, how do you maintain a work-life balance, and kind of essentially just left the door open like that. And I never liked this question because it's hard to answer, and for a few reasons. When I had first gotten started with this company, there was no such thing as work-life balance. It was the summer of my junior year in college. I'm home alone at the cottages. Everybody's gone. I'm bored out of my mind. And what did we decide to do? We started to start a company and literally do that for essentially almost every waking hour that I had, for an extended period of time, of course, until we got to a point to where the work was too much for me to just handle. Really not enough time in a day for me to handle, and outsource from there. And obviously it led to a position to where things are working out, but oftentimes I ask myself, did it take all of that?
Yeah.
So the way I posed it to him was, and I had to be blunt about it. I was like, you're older, you might have a family, I don't know who you are, but you have more obligations than I do in a day. I don't come from a military family. I come from a family of teachers and doctors, and but regardless, something within me quite essentially says, when you start something, you're going to dedicate everything you have toward it. It was the same mindset I had with track, and I tried to even amplify it for business. With I believe your body fatigues before your mind. You only work out for. It's not
work out for a couple hours. Yeah.
It's not conducive to work for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, but you can find a way to do online work that much. That's one of the main reasons why I have to wear blue light glasses nowadays, because there's repercussions of it.
It kind of hurts when you go to bed. You can feel your eyes just kind of. Even though last time I was falling asleep, I was watching YouTube golf. I should have just gone to bed, but I went to bed. I could feel it in my eyes. Just kind of sitting there after we look at the screen all day. It's a real thing.
For me, it's brain fog, man.
That's fair.
And I don't know if we start to bleed this out. I don't know if it was from COVID.
Yeah.
But ever since around that time, and really when I was done with the track, I'm staring at screens for
all day.
It's 75% of my waking hours, and I think it's catching up.
Oh yeah, it's a real thing. That's why the work-life balance is also. You're kind of saying, the older people, we're still young, we don't have much responsibilities. I've always kind of said, once you have no 30 years old, everyone's kind of saying that's, you're in the depth of it. So, especially this age, you could sleep at the warehouse, you can do anything you want since you have no responsibilities, So that's the difference. Most people don't understand, once you're super young, it's like time in the market. Everyone says invest your money when you're young. Same thing with work-life balance. You invest all your time with work-life balance early on, then you're going to have more work-life balance when you're older. So, just kind of making sure you're doing it when you're young enough, then down the line, when people don't have work-life balance, they're doing a lot of hours early on. Once you're 40, they're still doing a lot of hours. When we're 40, our plan's not to be doing a lot of hours, So that's, it definitely takes a sacrifice, but the payoff could be there.
Yeah, most definitely. Hearing it from successful people is one thing, because they all have a different opinion. Everybody, and this is what I hear, there's no blueprint to success. No. There's no one blueprint, I should say. There's no one formula to success. Many ways, different timing other people have, but for me, especially coming from a sport, I know you do as well, we kind of learned that brute force brings us to success. the working as long as you can,
Yep,
quite essentially. And for me personally, there's been a lot of negation from it, and I'm glad to have you all around to bring us out to go golfing. I know I pretty mediocre at that.
takes some time. Golf would take some time, but just like you were saying, like with sports and stuff, just once you stop playing sports at a college level, you're in a weird position. I
Yes.
mean, because I was even senior of high school, going to the gym before high school, so that's 5 a.m. to 7 going to school, having basketball during school, and then going back to the gym that night. So that's 8 hours of just physically working out that just kind of disappears. Like, what do I do? You got to fill the gap somewhere, especially in college sports. Same
Yes.
thing. 10 hours, all you can think about. It's like I had a shitty day. Tomorrow I need to do better. So your brain is just completely congested with your thoughts.
And another large difference between, let's say doing a collegiate sport versus starting a company is, and really just sports in general. It's a high school, collegiate. You have a coach that kind of gives you parameters of what to do, what not to do, what to eat, what not to eat. You get into this field where you just graduated college. Obviously, there's no. I wish I had a mentor.
Yeah.
YouTube seemed to
That is the mentor.
become
YouTube and ChatGPT are the mentor.
become the new age mentors.
They are.
It's on your own will at that point, quite essentially. It's what you're willing to do during this period of time.
Just a belief system.
So here's the conundrum that it breaks down to. It's you can hear it from me saying, and I could tell anybody, oh yes, have a work-life balance, stay healthy, watch out for that, for the mental side of things. Yes, and you always should, but I can't say that's what I did.
No, yeah.
I can't say that's what led to success. I can't say that, honestly.
Everyone that's successful is kind of say the same. There's no blueprint, but everyone will say there's sacrifice in it. So, everyone could say this. Everyone else has different definitions of success, but everyone in that definition of success has definitely made sacrifice. And that sacrifice is the work-life balance. That's if something's going on, staying here, it's just a part of it. Being successful is making sacrifices at different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Essentially, I posed it, I posed it at this, are you willing, and you say it in simple statements, are you willing to work on a birthday? Are you willing to, I didn't take it too crazy. Are you willing to spend 2 days at home for Christmas versus the whole week or for some people, the whole month? It's really the many things at that point. And people often ask, why do it on your birthday? You could easily take a day off. You might take a day off on this random other day. There's an importance to it on treating important events and days and sacrificing those in specific. Now, obviously, there's limits to it. You have a child being born.
Yeah, there's.
But because you know what you're missing.
Yeah.
And obviously it's on the mind, but what you're missing is something that's much greater than just a normal day. And you are not just missing it to miss it. You're missing it to do what you hopefully love.
Yeah.
And that's really what it boils down to. You actually get to the point to where you would love working more than you would celebrating XYZ event. And, obviously take that with a grain of salt. But
if you love working on the task, whatever it is, the work-life balance is pretty easy. It doesn't feel like work-life balance. It just kind of feels like it's part of your life.
Quite essentially. And, I would say this in to anybody that is in the position, and it's a specific position, going from sports, trying to transition to anything else.
It's a real thing. You never really understand it until it happens. It's a real.
Most definitely. It goes deeper than the surface, because we've been doing this event. It's called the sport. I was a high jumper, the basketball, correct? We've been doing this sport for so long that it once again has become. I won't say once again. At this point, it's the first time it has become ingrained into who you are.
Yeah.
your ego, your identity, XYZ. Of course, once you stop, that's stripped from you. You're left in a vulnerable state trying to fill it. Um, you know, put that into what you will. And, for me, it's asking myself, am I feeling it with business? Does that then make it an obligation to me to have it? And I'm perfectly fine posing it that way,
Yeah.
which is quite essentially saying work-life balance is work balance, because it's all one. Or you can even call it life balance.
Yeah.
It essentially becomes synonymous with each other,
It is.
and that's fine.
It is.
And you have to be, let's say, if you're a founder, in a position where you're comfortable with that, and or even uncomfortable with that, but you do it anyways. And of course, as we said before, there's no cookie cutter way to do it.
No.
That's just essentially the way that we've done it, and that's okay.
Everyone has different paths how they do it. I mean, it's just really, it's not luck, but it's it's just a consistency going to try to figure it out. Well, it usually works out, because everyone, some people have a simple viral video that pops off that then their brand takes off. Somebody has a simple thing, a celebrity. You never know how someone's going to do it, but it's just really being consistent. Because if you're, let's just say you're posting a TikTok one time a day, and you're a startup, no one really knows who you are. Like early on, the odds, are just going to be so much lower if you're posting 5 or 6 times a day, just trying to get the message out. So that's, we could say it's the path, but other people are going to say it's not the path. So there's, just completely different ways to do it. It's just really consistent.
The cool thing about building a brand is that, once you get to a point to where you have people that are able to help, you're able to start to bring in more of that classical life. But even beyond that, you're able to showcase it. And people like to see that. How's the lifestyle outside of the warehouse?
Yeah.
Well, definitely, like, we'll go off in the morning. We're hoping to break 100.
There we go.
That's
a new course. We never played it. We don't know what we're not going to say, aim left, because the sweet spot's there. We know at the home course, we know where we need to hit the ball every time.
It's going to be a little guesswork.
There's going to be an oh shit moment. We're going to hit something that we should not have hit it there. So it'll be interesting.
Cole, you're talking like you're not one of the greatest golfers out there.
They're not.
All right.
I'm on the quest to break 80, hoping to get lower than that this summer. I think it's possible.
Here's the difference. You're on a quest to break 80 on 18. I'm on a quest to break 80 on 9. That's the difference between me and you.
That is true. It's 160.
Anyways, most definitely. So, when it comes down to it, work-life balance, you got to find your own way with it. And it all boils down to honesty.
Yeah.
If you're working hard enough, hard and smart, but hard enough, then that contentedness that you feel at the end of the day will be there.
Yeah.
Quite essentially. Regardless, my name is Nicholas Prentice.
I'm Cole Himmer.
And we found this company named Bread. Bread's an elastic shoelace company. Shoelaces that stretch, allowing you to slide on your shoes after just tying them once. Please check us out and leave down in the comments what else you'd like to see. Let's get to Bread.